Lieutenant Colonel Hal Moore was more than a soldier. He was a beacon of leadership and resilience. From his humble beginnings in Kentucky to the unforgiving jungles of Vietnam, Moore's unwavering loyalty to his men and tactical brilliance made him a legend. Leading his battalion in the historic Battle of Ia Drang, Moore's actions define courage under fire. Join us as we explore the life and legacy of a man who became a hero on the battlefield and in the hearts of those he inspired.
Lieutenant Colonel Harold Gregory Hal Moore was born on February 13, 1922 in Bardstown, Kentucky. Growing up in a small, close-knit community during the Great Depression, Moore learned the values of hard work, resilience, and humility. His early life was shaped by the strength of his family and the simplicity of rural life. Hal was a natural leader even as a young boy, excelling in school and athletics and developing an intense curiosity about the world around him. When World War II broke out, Moore felt the call to serve his country. He applied to West Point and, after an arduous selection process, was accepted into the prestigious military academy. At West Point, Hal's discipline and leadership abilities flourished. He studied military tactics rigorously, understanding that true leadership required a deep commitment to one's men and country. His time at West Point solidified his resolve, preparing him for the challenges that lay ahead. Graduating in 1945, Moore entered the U.S. Army with a desire to make a difference. He served in various roles, gradually building a reputation for his tactical genius and compassionate leadership style. In 1951, Moore served in the Korean War, where he developed a keen sense of the realities of battle. Witnessing the toll of combat firsthand, he became a deeply empathetic leader, vowing always to put his men's safety and morale first. After Korea, Moore continued to rise through the ranks, applying his skills in various training and command roles. By the early 1960s, the U.S. was becoming more involved in Vietnam, and Moore knew it was only a matter of time before he would be called to lead his troops into one of the most complex and grueling wars America would face. In 1965, Moore was promoted to lieutenant colonel and tasked with leading the 1st Battalion, 7th Cavalry Regiment, an iconic unit once commanded by General George Custer. The assignment marked a turning point in Moore's career. In preparation, he trained his men with an intensity and attention to detail that few could match. Moore understood that Vietnam would be unlike any other battlefield, and he drilled his troops on guerrilla tactics, jungle survival, and the importance of camaraderie in combat. His bond with his soldiers grew deep. He viewed himself as responsible not only for their military performance but for their lives. In November 1965, Moore's unit was ordered to deploy to the Ia Drang Valley, a remote area in the central highlands of Vietnam. It would be the first major engagement between American and North Vietnamese forces, a testing ground for Moore's leadership and his troops' resolve. He knew the risks were high, but he also believed in the training and spirit of his battalion. Moore assured his men he would stand with them on the battlefield, leading from the front lines and sharing every danger they faced. The day of departure was somber. Moore's calm resolve reassured his troops, but the weight of the mission was undeniable. As the helicopters lifted off, carrying Moore and his men toward Ia Drang, they were filled with a mix of fear and determination. Moore's only thoughts were of his men's safety, aware that the survival of his soldiers depended on his leadership and the strength of their unity. As Moore's battalion landed in the Ia Drang Valley, they were immediately aware of the danger surrounding them. The thick jungle, oppressive heat, and silent anticipation created a sense of dread. Moore ordered his men to secure the landing zone and establish defensive positions, knowing they were about to face a fierce and determined enemy. Unbeknownst to them, they were vastly outnumbered by the North Vietnamese forces already entrenched in the area. The first shots were fired shortly after they landed. The jungle erupted with gunfire, and the air was thick with smoke and shouts. Moore remained calm, moving from position to position, encouraging his men and directing their fire. He made it clear that he would not leave them, vowing to stand beside them no matter what happened. His presence in the thick of battle inspired his soldiers, reinforcing their determination to fight. As the enemy closed in, Moore ordered his troops to hold their ground, employing tactics that utilized the terrain to their advantage. Despite the overwhelming odds, Moore's strategy allowed his men to repel wave after wave of attacks. He called in airstrikes and artillery with pinpoint precision, often putting himself in harm's way to ensure his men's safety. The North Vietnamese soldiers attacked relentlessly, but Moore's leadership held his battalion together. The battle raged for 3 days and nights. Moore barely slept, constantly coordinating defenses and checking on his men. He refused to retreat, knowing that any weakness could lead to his battalion's collapse. At times, he was forced to make heartbreaking decisions, ordering men to hold positions even when it meant facing almost certain death. Yet, through every painful choice, Moore's commitment to his soldiers never wavered. On the second night, the situation grew desperate. The battalion was surrounded and ammunition was running low. Moore knew he needed a miracle. He radioed for reinforcements and air support, directing every available resource to protect his men. Throughout the chaos, he maintained his composure, never allowing the fear and exhaustion to show. His men took strength from his resilience, holding their ground even as the odds stacked against them. When reinforcements finally arrived, Moore's battalion had sustained heavy losses, but they had survived. The bravery and sacrifice of Moore's men had turned the tide, but the cost was devastating. As the smoke cleared, Moore walked among the wounded and fallen, the weight of the battle bearing down on him. He had led his men through one of the fiercest engagements of the Vietnam War, but the memories of those he couldn't save would haunt him for the rest of his life. Returning home, Moore was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross for his leadership in Ia Drang. He would go on to write "We were soldiers once," and "Young Asterisk," a powerful account of the battle that honored the bravery of his men. But Moore's legacy was more than a medal or a book. He had redefined what it meant to lead with honor, loyalty, and compassion.
Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going back to Vietnam.
Oh yeah.
It's the Vietnam War, and we're exploring the life of a true legend, Lieutenant Colonel Hal Moore. You guys sent over some fascinating chapters from his biography, and it focuses on his early life and the intense Battle of Ia Drang.
A good one.
Yeah, this is more than just a war story.
Oh, for sure.
This is about...
Way more.
Yeah, the kind of grit and determination and leadership
Right.
that leaves a mark on history.
You got it. It's an amazing story.
Yeah.
And what's really striking is that Moore's journey doesn't start on some grand battlefield.
Right.
It starts during the Great Depression.
Oh, wow.
in Bardstown, Kentucky.
Okay, so paint the picture for us. What kind of environment are we talking about?
Imagine a close-knit community where everyone is struggling, but there's this shared sense of resilience. Hard work wasn't just a virtue back then. It was a necessity.
Right.
And for young Hal Moore,
Yeah.
those values were ingrained from day one.
So we're not just talking about abstract values here. How did this upbringing actually shape him?
It's in the details.
Yeah.
Even as a boy, Moore was known for his work ethic, always pushing himself.
Wow.
Whether it was on the farm or in school, he even organized a local fire brigade.
Oh, wow.
That's leadership right there.
Yeah.
Emerging organically.
Yeah, that's a great point. It wasn't the army that made him a leader. It was already in his DNA.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And this sets the stage for West Point. Sure, the academy provided rigorous training,
Yeah.
tactical knowledge. But what's fascinating is how Moore excelled, not just because of the skills he learned, but because of who he already was.
Driven, disciplined, already embodying that leadership spirit.
Exactly. And then comes Korea.
Right?
Now, this is where things get real.
Yeah.
For Moore, it's not just about textbooks and maneuvers anymore.
Yeah.
It's about the true cost of war. He sees firsthand the sacrifice, the loss, and it profoundly impacts him.
So Korea isn't just another battle on his resume. It's a turning point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can almost trace his deep empathy for his soldiers back to this experience.
Wow.
He's not just focused on winning battles.
Right.
He's focused on protecting the lives of the men under his command.
Okay, so we've got this foundation of hard work leadership and now a deep understanding of the human cost of war. Fast forward to 1965, Vietnam's on the horizon.
Yeah.
And Moore is given command of the 1st Battalion, 7th Cavalry Regiment.
Big shoes to fill.
This isn't just any unit, right?
No, it's steeped in history. This is the unit Custer led at Little Bighorn.
Wow.
Talk about pressure and legacy.
Yeah.
And Moore felt that weight. But he also saw an opportunity.
To reshape the narrative, perhaps, the lead differently.
Exactly. He knew Vietnam would be unlike anything they'd faced before guerrilla warfare, in dense jungles facing an enemy that blended into the landscape.
Right.
So how does he prepare his men? It's not just about physical training. It's about forging a bond.
Interesting.
He instills in them the importance of camaraderie, of looking out for each other.
Yeah.
Because in this kind of war, their survival depends on it.
Yeah. It's fascinating how we understood that the human element was as crucial as any weapon.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And there's a quote from the biography that really drives this home. Moore said he felt responsible for his men's lives, not just their performance.
Wow.
That's a powerful statement.
Yeah, it's not the cold, detached approach you might expect from a military commander.
Right.
It's deeply personal.
It is. It speaks to a different kind of leadership. One where the well-being of his soldiers is paramount. And this mindset is crucial to understanding how Moore led his men, not just in training,
Right.
but through the hell of Ia Drang.
All right, so the stage is set. We've got a leader forged by hardship,
Yeah,
deeply empathetic,
you got
are
it.
commanding a legendary unit with a new approach to warfare.
Yeah.
It's November 1965, and they're deployed to the Ia Drang Valley. Describe that for us.
Imagine stepping off the helicopters into this dense, humid jungle.
Okay.
The air is thick, oppressive, and visibility is limited. You can feel the tension, the anticipation. And what the Americans don't know yet is that they're vastly outnumbered by the North Vietnamese forces.
Wow. Adding another layer of danger and uncertainty to an already perilous situation.
Absolutely.
What happens next?
Suddenly, the silence is shattered, the first shots are fired, and the jungle erupts into chaos.
Wow.
It's an ambush, a furious wave of enemy fire coming from seemingly everywhere.
This is it, the moment of truth for Moore and his men.
And here's where Moore's leadership truly shines. Amidst the chaos and confusion, he remains calm, a beacon of order in the storm.
Wow.
He's not huddled in some distant command post.
Yeah.
He's right there with his men, moving among them, directing fire, making sure they know he's not going to abandon them.
So we're not talking about some general barking orders from afar. He's in the thick of it, sharing the danger with his troops.
Exactly. He's leading by example, showing them that he's willing to face the same risks, the same fears that they are, and that makes all the difference.
Yeah, his presence is a source of strength, a reminder that they're not alone in this fight. And it's not just about his physical presence.
It's about his tactical brilliance.
Okay, so let's dive into that. How does Moore handle this chaotic battlefield facing an enemy that seems to be everywhere and nowhere at the same time?
Well, this is where his understanding of both the terrain and the enemy's tactics comes into play.
Okay.
He doesn't just react. He anticipates. He uses the dense jungle to his advantage, setting up defensive positions that maximize his limited firepower.
And there's that element of air power we mentioned earlier. How does that factor into his strategy?
It's not just about brute force.
Right.
It's about precision. Moore calls in airstrikes, but they're targeted surgical,
Okay.
aimed at disrupting enemy assaults while minimizing casualties among his own men.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, communication is key in this kind of battle.
Yeah.
Moore is constantly coordinating,
Right.
making sure everyone is on the same page, adapting to the ever-changing situation.
It's incredible to think about the level of focus and composure he must have maintained, especially under such intense pressure.
And that's what sets him apart. He doesn't let the fear show, he doesn't panic.
Right.
He makes decisions. He acts. And his men see that.
Yeah.
It inspires them, gives them the confidence to fight on.
They know their leaders are going to crack under pressure,
Mm.
but this isn't a one-day battle, is it?
No, the Battle of Ia Drang rages for 3 agonizing days.
Wow.
3 days of nonstop fighting,
Goodness.
of close quarters combat, of constant danger. Moore barely sleeps. He's constantly on the move, making decisions, rallying his troops, directing the defense.
This is where the true grit of both Moore and his men is tested.
Absolutely. They're exhausted, they're outnumbered, they're running low on ammunition, but they hold on. They fight back because of Moore's leadership,
Yeah.
because of the bond they've forged.
You mentioned earlier that there's a specific story from the biography that illustrates Moore's courage. Can you share that with us?
There's a moment where a group of his men are pinned down, taking heavy fire.
Okay.
They're in a vulnerable position, and their supplies are dwindling.
Oh,
Moore, realizing the danger personally, leads a small group of soldiers through enemy fire to reinforce that position.
wow. He's not just sending others into harm's way. He's putting himself on the line to protect his men.
Exactly. And this act of bravery isn't just about bravado.
Right.
It's about showing his soldiers that he's with them, that he's not going to abandon them no matter the cost.
Wow.
And that resonates deeply with his troops.
It's that band of brothers mentality in action.
Yeah.
It's about trust, loyalty, and a shared commitment to survival. But even with that spirit, they're facing overwhelming odds. What happens as the battle reaches a critical point?
The second night is particularly brutal.
Okay.
They're surrounded, their perimeter is shrinking, and the enemy attacks are relentless. Moore knows they're in a desperate situation. They need reinforcements, and they need them now.
So what does he do?
He radios for support, directs every available resource to their aid. He keeps his composure even though he knows their survival hangs in the balance. He coordinates artillery strikes, directs air support, all while rallying his men, keeping their spirits up, reminding them that they're not giving up.
It's incredible to think about the pressure he's under, the weight of responsibility for so many lives.
And yet he never falters.
Yeah, sure.
He keeps fighting, he keeps leading. And finally, against all odds, the reinforcements arrive.
Wow.
They break through the enemy lines, bringing with them much-needed ammunition and manpower.
It's a moment of relief, of victory, hard won, but it comes at a heavy price.
The battlefield is littered with casualties, both American and North Vietnamese. And Moore, as the fighting subsides, walks among the fallen.
Wow.
The weight of the battle, the lives lost, the sheer exhaustion of it all. It's a powerful and sobering image.
This isn't just a triumphant victory parade. It's a stark reminder of the human cost of war.
And this moment, I think, speaks volumes about Moore's character. Yes, he's a brilliant strategist, courageous leader, but he's also a man who understands the profound weight of his decisions, the lasting impact of this battle on the lives of so many.
He's not celebrating victory. He's mourning loss, acknowledging the sacrifice that was made. It's a powerful and humanizing moment.
And it's a reminder that even in the midst of war, amidst the chaos of the bloodshed, there's still room for compassion, for empathy, for a recognition of the shared humanity that binds us all.
It really is, and it's a stark contrast to the image of a detached general celebrating victory from afar.
Right.
This is a leader who understands the true cost of war, who grieves for those lost.
And it's that understanding, that empathy that sets Moore apart as a leader. It's not just about giving orders.
Yeah.
It's about caring for the men under his command, about sharing their burdens, and ultimately about bringing them home.
We often hear about tactical brilliance, but it seems that Moore's true genius lay in understanding the human side of war.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that comes through in the way he trained his troops, the way he fought alongside them, and the way he mourned their losses. It's a leadership style that goes beyond textbooks and strategies.
Right.
It's about forging a bond,
Yeah.
creating a sense of shared purpose,
Yeah.
and inspiring loyalty and trust.
And the impact of that leadership is clear.
Oh, yeah.
His men fought with incredible courage and determination, holding their ground against overwhelming odds. They knew their leader wouldn't abandon them.
Exactly. And that's the legacy of Hal Moore.
Yeah.
It's not just about the medals he earned or the battles he won.
Right.
It's about the way he redefined leadership.
Yeah.
Demonstrating that true strength lies in compassion, in empathy, in a willingness to put the well-being of others before your own.
We touched on this earlier. Hal Moore received the Distinguished Service Cross for his actions at Ia Drang, and his book, We Were Soldiers Once and Young, became a bestseller.
Great book.
Yeah, offering a powerful and personal account of the battle. So what can we, listening to this story today, take away from Moore's example? What makes his leadership relevant even decades after the Vietnam War?
I think it's about recognizing that true leadership isn't about barking orders or seeking glory.
Okay.
It's about inspiring others, motivating them to achieve something greater than themselves. It's about building trust, fostering a sense of community, and leading by example.
And those are qualities that are valuable not just on a battlefield, but in any situation where people are working together towards a common goal.
For sure.
Whether it's in a business, a nonprofit, or even in our personal relationships.
Absolutely.
Moore's story challenges us to think about the kind of leaders we want to be, the kind of impact we want to have on the world.
For sure.
It's a reminder that courage, compassion, and integrity are timeless qualities that can make a real difference.
Couldn't agree more.
It's not about seeking out battles, but about facing the challenges that come our way with the same determination and grit that Moore displayed.
Exactly. And it's about remembering that even in the most difficult situations, even when faced with overwhelming odds, the human spirit can prevail.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the life and leadership of Hal Moore, I'm curious to know what resonates most with you. What's the one thing that sticks with you from this exploration of his story?
For me, it's the power of leading with heart. It's about understanding that true strength lies not just in physical prowess or tactical brilliance, but in the ability to connect with others, to inspire them and to care for them.
It's a powerful reminder that even in the midst of war, humanity can shine through. Thanks for diving into this incredible story with us. We hope you found it as insightful and inspiring as we did.